In this video, I'm going to show you how to build a powerful AI automation that's going to scrape TikTok videos of all of your competitors. And in complete automation, it's going to read the transcripts. It's going to build a database of all the metrics and data about what videos did well for them, how many comments and likes and views. But not only that, it's also going to scrape the entire transcript of the videos, pass that through to AI, and an AI is going to read through all the transcripts once a week of your competitors in your niche, and it's going to create a report for you that it will email to you automatically and tell you everything that your competitors have been talking about, any new tools or strategies that you need to be aware of. So it's like having a research team on your side. So when you're a content creator, you can focus on what you do best and create content and have an army of AIs behind the scene doing all the research for you. So the way this is going to work is we're going to use N8N to drive the automation. We're going to use Airtable. You can use just Google Docs if you want. You don't have to use Airtable. Then we're going to use a service called Appify to scrape all the TikTok videos. We're going to pass that through to OpenAI's ChatGPT and feed the whole thing back through to Airtable, and then it will email us the report at the end. So let me take you through an example of this live in action so you can actually see what you're going to be building. And then once we've done that, I'm going to build it piece by piece and you can follow along with me. So let's get into it. Okay, all we have to do is just grab the handle of any of the competitors in our niche. So I'm over at TikTok, I grab a handle. This isn't actually one of my competitors. I'm just using this guy as an example. Grab his handle. Then we go over to the Airtable database like this, which I'll show you how to do all of this. But all you need to do is just paste that in like that. And you can give it a post date that you want videos older than a certain time or before a certain time frame. And then you can tell it how many results you want. For this example, I'm just going to keep it short and do 10. You can do a lot more than that. Once you've got that data in, that's really all you need to do once this automation's working. So let me show the automation in N8N. There's two parts to it. This is the first part, and then there's a second part here, and I'll walk you through each in a second. But let's just test the first part, which is going to go and get all the videos and scrape them, get all the metrics, and then add the transcripts back to Airtable. So once we just click test run like that, all I have to do is go back to Airtable and trigger it by going scrape profile like that. Once that happens, and this can all be done on automation on a once a week timer, you don't actually have to manually click it. So you can see here the data's come through and immediately it's sending a request over to a service called Appify, which is scraping all of the TikTok videos and getting all of this really useful data for us. So it's going through video by video and getting all those details. Once it's finished, it's going to send that information directly back, and then we're going to park it up in Airtable here. And then once it's finished being stored in Airtable, we're going to carry on down a second route down here, which is then going to get the transcripts. It's going to read the transcripts and it's going to feed the transcripts into an AI over here. The AI is going to read all the transcripts and then update Airtable on the other side with clean transcripts with all the information about it. So I'll just pause the video while this finishes doing its thing. Okay, so now that it's done that, it's come back, updated Airtable, and now you can see it's shooting down the second path here. So now the AI is getting the transcripts and it's reading and updating Airtable transcript by transcript, and it's going to populate it with all the metrics about each video, like how many views, how many shares, all of that sort of great stuff, so that we can understand what videos did well while we're also reading the transcript. And the AI is going to tell us what they actually talked about and make suggestions for us for videos that we might want to produce as well, because it's monitoring our competitors and see what's doing well. So you can see now this is updating Airtable automatically. So if we hop back over to Airtable and we go to the videos tab, you can see here it's updating all these videos here. And these columns that we create, it tells us everything about the video for us. So if we slide across, you can see it's given us the video URL. It's also given us the transcript. It's given us the dig count, the shares, the plays, the comments, the date that it was created. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff that it summarizes for us. So once the AI reads this, it'll tell us what tools that they mentioned, what that they used in the videos. We can see here in this particular video, he was talking about Gemini, WordPress, Claude. It gives us a framework of tactics, like what sort of strategies they talked about. It gives us a summary. It gives us a target audience, any problems that they were solving. So the AI has read the transcript for us, and it's telling us what the video is about. And then we can feed that in once a week and get a summary report. And then the AI can keep an eye on our niche for us and keep us abreast of everything that's going on, any new developments. So by simply scraping and populating Airtable like this, obviously you can do this with dozens and dozens of competitors. Once a week, you can just set it to run, and then it will do it. And then once you've got all the data in here, once a week, you can then fire off the second automation. So the way the second part of this automation works, and again, this would all be set up to run automatically. You don't have to manually do it, but I'll just do it for an example, is let's say once a week, I want to batch look at all of this information here. I don't want to read through this stuff. That's going to defeat the purpose of automation. I want the AI to read it for me. So I'm just going to once a week have an automation that's going to do a bulk grab all of these things and push it through the AI to read it for me. So I've done that now. If we head back here, you can see it's fired a second automation. It's grabbed all of those rows at once in a bulk grab from Airtable, and it's feeding it into the AI here. The AI is reading every transcript, all the metrics, all of the data, and it's going to create a report for me once a week. And then it's going to email that report to me once a week so that in my inbox, I'm just going to have a detailed plan of what's going on in my niche. So you can see that it's finished and it's sent me an email. So let's head over and look at my email now and see what we got. Okay, I'm over at my email. You can see here I've got this nice weekly competitive video intelligence report, and it's broken it out into emerging topics and trends, and it's broken it out into different things that people are talking about, key tools, impact videos that did well. So any video that had over 5,000 views that did well, it gave me a link to the video so I can just click that and go and watch that particular video because the AI has already filtered it for me and it tells me what it's about, any strategies that they talked about, or any suggested content. So it's giving me ideas saying, here's some ideas that you might want to do for your channel. So we can tailor all this to anything that we want by just adjusting the prompting. But this is the idea. We get AI to keep an eye on our niche for us, look what's going on, and summarize it once a week for us. So it's a really handy tool. So let's get in and start building it step by step. Okay, the first thing you need to do is get an account at Airtable. Now, if you don't want to use Airtable, because it is a paid account, because you need to run the automations on Airtable, you don't have to do this part. You could just run this on a Google Sheet and just do a semi-automation where you don't fully automate the whole thing. So it's completely up to you, but I know not everybody wants to use a paid account at Airtable, which I totally understand. I use all my automations on Airtable because it's an incredible tool. But if you don't want to, just follow along. But where we do the automation, just turn it into a semi-automation and just copy and paste things manually that you get back. And you can certainly do that and get the same sort of result, no problem doing this. So over at Airtable, you want to set up a couple of tables. The first one's called competitors. So just create a new table, call it competitors. Then we're going to create these columns here. So the first column, we're going to call it TikTok user. And here, I'm just going to edit this and call it a single line of text. All we need to do in here is paste the handle of the competitor from TikTok that we want. You just copy and paste them in there and populate as many as you like. Here we're going to use a date field. So just put older post data, and you call it a date field, and then set the date format to ISO like I've got like that. All this is doing is we can manually override and set when we want the AI to scrape the videos from a certain date. We might not want really old videos like from 6 months ago. It might be kind of out of date. So we can adjust and dial that in by having a date there. Results per page is just how many results do we want to pull back. So you might want to pull the 10 latest videos, or you might want to do 100. It's totally up to you. But by having this, you can dial it up and down. I've just got this as a number field. So select number and call it results per page and put number. Then we want to put a record ID in here. Now, this automatically actually populates in the background with Airtable, but I like to be able to see it sometimes to make sure if I'm debugging to see what row is being pulled in. So in order to have a record ID show, all you have to do is put a formula field in here, put formula, and then just start typing record, and then it will populate it for you. You just have to close the parenthesis off to finish it off like that. By doing that, Airtable will show you the record ID of that particular row. So it's a handy thing to have sitting there. And the next thing is a status field. So click edit there, status, and click single select like that. And then you want to set up, a status called scrape profile like that. Just click add option, scrape profile. That's all you need to do on the first table and you're good to go. Then we're going to create a second table over here, which is where all the scraped video data is going to live. So there's a couple more columns here to do. So I'm going to move through this reasonably quickly, but I encourage you just to pause the video if you feel like I'm going too quickly, and then just make sure you get all of the fields updated before you move on. Okay, what we're going to do in here is a column, just call it competitor. It's a single line of text. Then we're going to have another column here called video ID. It's a single line of text. The next one is video URL, and it again is a single line of text. The next one here is video transcript. That's a long text because that's where we're going to put the transcript itself once it's scraped. I'm just going to slide that over. These next ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, are all numbers. Okay, so this one here is digs and it's a number. So I won't open up the rest of them for the sake of time, but this one's called shares, plays, and comments, and they're all number fields. Okay, the next one over here is called creation date. It's a single line of text. You could put a date field, but sometimes N8N gets confused if you don't have the exact date formatting, but this works perfectly fine just having it like that. Okay, the next one is a long text field again. This is called tools mentioned. So this is where we're populating the stuff that the AI gets. So when the AI reads the video transcript, it's looking for certain categories that we train it for in the prompting. So it's looking for any particular tools, software tools that they use. Now you can tailor this to whatever you want the AI to look for. This is just what I did. You don't have to copy it exactly, but for the sake of an example, let's just move through it. So I've got tools mentioned. This is another long text field called tactics or frameworks. The next one is topic summary. The next one is target audience. The next one is problems addressed. And the next one is solutions offered. They're all long text. Now, again, you'll see why you can tailor this to whatever you want once we go through the automation. So for now, just copy along what I've got and then tailor it to what you need to suit your needs later. The last couple of fields over here is the date added. So we're going to put here date added, and this is just select created time. This is important, this one here. You want a timestamp of when this was loaded into Airtable. And the reason for that is when you do these automations, the way I'm running this one for myself is once a week, I'm going to set this to bulk grab everything that was added in the last week and just grab the whole lot in a week and then put it through the automation that you just saw. And then once a week, it's just going to automatically arrive in my inbox and I can scan and see the latest trends that are going on in my niche and what's working for people and what's not. So this is a really important timestamp to have in there. And then we're going to have a bulk status over here. Okay, so again, in here, it's just single select, and then you have to add a option and call it bulk review. Okay, bulk review. So that's all you need in Airtable for the table setup. Again, we're going to walk through when I show you this in action to come back here. After you've got this set up, we need to now create the automation. So go up to automations at the top here, and we're going to create in here 2 automations, okay? One's called Scrape TikTok, the other's called AI Analysis. These are running the 2 N8N automations that I showed you at the beginning of this video. So let's start with the Scrape TikTok. The purpose of this is what we want to do is create a trigger event that sends all the data from Airtable over to N8N, right? So the way we begin it is, if we're just starting here raw with just a username and that's all we've got nothing else, then we need to send that over to N8N and get the process started. So in order to do that, the trigger event is going to be the status field. When we change that status field from nothing to scrape profile, it's going to trigger the whole automation and send this data in this row over to N8N for us. So the way we do that is go to automations, create a new automation in the bottom left, then you select on the trigger event when a record matches a condition. On the right-hand side, you choose configuration, it's the competitors table, and in the conditions, it's when the status is scrape profile. That's all you need to do to get that part set up. Now we need to run a script. So the next action field is run a script. So what we do is on the right, there's a button called edit code. Click that. And here, you just need to paste this code in like this. So just take a screenshot of that code, or I'll just put it below the video for you to make it easier. But you actually need to edit the URL field in here of that code or it won't work. You can't just have it exactly like that because it's the wrong URL, and I'll show you why in a second. But just paste in the code under the video so that you've got it. And then on the left-hand side, you need to add a variable. So you put name as record ID, and that's a capital I in ID, so pay attention to that or it will break. And then in the value, click that plus symbol there, and then you're going to choose Airtable record ID, like that field there, okay? And then that's set up of your variables. In order for this to work, we need to get this webhook URL here, which is what you're going to have to swap out or it won't work. So I'll show you how to get that now. We're going to go over to N8N, and we're going to start to build this automation out. The first thing that we're going to do over at N8N, So I'm just going to scoot that across, and we're going to add what's called a webhook in here. So this is our first module, our webhook. So in order to add a module, click the plus symbol on the right, and then just click webhook like that. On the right, you'll see webhook. Open up the webhook, and then you'll get that URL they give you at the top. Grab that URL and head back over to Airtable. And then over at Airtable, you just want to paste in the webhook they give you right in between those quotes like that. And then you want to click finish. And then you want to turn that on. Okay. Now the first part of the automation at Airtable is complete. We're going to come back and do the second part later. For now, we're good to go. So let's just head back to N8N, and we're going to test this part of the automation. So all you've got to do here is click test workflow once you've got this connected. And what's going to happen is once you do test workflow, you head back over to Airtable and trigger the automation to fire. And the way you do that is you just go like that and scrape the profile. Now, I haven't got the automation turned on right now because I already ran it. But if you did that, it's going to fire. And in this webhook, it's going to pull all of this information from Airtable, which is what we want. Once we get this Airtable information to come through, then we can start to pull the data and run the automation. So the next module you need is an Airtable module here. So I'm going to go and click a plus symbol on the right, and then I'm going to go Airtable. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose Get a Record. Okay, Get a Record on Airtable. Open it up. In here, we need to connect Airtable to N8N. So if you watch my previous videos, you've seen me do this a lot. For those of you who haven't, I'll just quickly explain. You need to get your API credentials from Airtable, and you need to connect Airtable to N8N. You do that at the top with the credentials where the little pencil is. So up here, you have to set this up once you've loaded it. So you need the OAuth redirect URL, which N8N gives you. Which Airtable gives you. And then you need your client ID and your client secret in order for this to work. Once you've got that in here and click Save and Connect, then you've got this bridge working. So over at Airtable, you need to go to the Developer Hub, and then you can connect and get your credentials that they give you, the API credentials. So I'll just show you how to do that now. In the top right-hand corner, where it's got the logo for your username at the top, you want to go to Builder Hub. Okay, once you're at Builder Hub, you want to choose OAuth integration and click Register New OAuth integration. Give it a name here. I'm going to delete this one, so I'm just going to leave it blank. Now, for the OAuth redirect URL here, you need to put the URL that N8N gives you, the OAuth redirect URL that N8N gives you, which is back on that other screen. You'll see where I was before. It had an OAuth redirect URL. You need to paste that in. So I've got that copied to clipboard now. I'm going to add it in, and then I'm going to register it like this. Okay, and then this page pops up here. I'm going to blur all of this out, but what you're going to see is a client ID, and then what you're also going to see is a box, if you look very closely, called Generate Secret Client. You need to click the Generate Secret Client. For some reason, Airtable almost make it impossible to see. I don't know why they do that. It annoyed me for a long time when I couldn't see the silly little button, but anyway, it's there. Generate those two things, grab them, and then down below here, you need to make sure that you tick all these boxes. Just click all these boxes here. Just click every single one of them like that. Webhook, yes, yes, yes. And then you want to grant access here. Click grant access, and then save the changes. Once you've done all that and followed through, it'll connect. And then once you go to the next screen, it's going to ask you which table you want to give permission for N8N and Airtable to connect that bridge. And it's obviously the Airtable that we're working on right now is the one that you want to give it permission for. Okay, so once you've got your connection set up, when you're in here, you want to then go to the base, and you want to choose the table and base from Airtable. So in this case, it was called TikTok Spy, and the table that we're pulling information from, we called it competitors. So you can just choose those from the drop-down. Once you've done your credentials and connected, those drop-downs will actually connect and have that information for you. In the record ID field here, you need to change that to expression. And then what you want to map in here is the record ID from down here. Look on the webhook under query, drag that and drop it just like that, like I've done. That's all you need to do. If you then click test step, it's then going to pull the record through. You can see in here the TikTok username was the Wizard of Marketing that it pulled through. So if we just double check if that was actually correct, go back here, and there it is. It's that row that it's pulled through. So we're making some pretty good progress now. Let's continue. So the next step we want to do is actually scrape the profile of this particular user. So in order to do that, we need to use a service called Appify. I'm going to head over to Appify now. Okay, over at Appify, it's a big marketplace of API scrapers that we can use where other people have developed scrapers to do all sorts of tasks like scrape TikTok, YouTube, you name it. You can shop around and have a look. You can get a free trial over here and test stuff out. And then you can try out all these different scrapers. You can see here I've done stuff on Instagram and TikTok and all sorts. But what you want to look for is this scraper here called TikTok Data Extractor. In order for this to run, what we need to do is connect to it from N8N so we can send requests from N8N over to this service. Once this service receives our request, it will then go and scrape, in this case, the TikTok profiles of a username that we're giving it. So instead of having to manually come in here and paste every username one by one, we want to do it with automation. So in order to do that, we need to get our API credentials set up to connect to that. So if we go down to settings at the bottom left there, then on the next page, go to API and integrations. And then in here on the right, go create a new token. I'm not going to do it now, but create a token and name it. That's something you'll recognize like TikTok scraper. And then it's going to give you your API token. You need to copy that and save it to a notepad document because we're going to need it when we're back at N8N. So back at N8N, we need to set up this module, which is going to connect to Appify. So we're going to click the plus symbol and we're going to go HTTP request module like that. I'm going to open this up now. And in here, we're going to set some parameters to connect the two services together. So we're going to have the method set to post. And in this URL, I'm going to blur part of this URL because it's actually got my API token on the end of it. So I've covered up the API token of mine at the end, but you can see this is the URL endpoint that you're going to use. So you're going to use this exact endpoint like this, but then it's just going to, where it's got the my Appify API at the end, you're going to replace it with your one. But this is how you have to set this up. You have to append your Appify API code at the end, and then you just use this URL exactly like that. So I'll add this under the video to make it a bit more clear that you just copy this part and then just append on the end your Appify code that they gave you in the previous step and paste the whole thing in there like that. If you do this exactly like I've got here, what's going to happen is it's going to send the request and then it's going to wait till the request is finished and pull it back in one go. And the reason for that is we're using a special request here called a run sync dataset. Otherwise, we have to do a delay step and wait and then go back and check if they're finished running. But it's much easier to just run synchronously like this if you use this particular endpoint. So once you've done that, we're just going to click the send headers to yes. And then we're going to use the fields below. And then in the name field here, type in authorization, and in the value field, type bearer with a capital B. After the word bearer, you're going to have a space, okay? Have a space, and then paste in, again, your API token that you got from Appify, exactly as you copied to that notepad. Paste that in there, because you're going to need that to connect the two services. Otherwise, you're going to get a failed connection. It's not going to authorize the connection. In the name field, you're going to put content-type like this, capital C, capital T. Then in the value, application /JSON, just like I've got there. Go down, have send body to send to green. And then in here, you're going to put content type JSON using the JSON below, just exactly like I've done. Now in here, you're obviously, I'll just give you the N8N automation. So this is already going to be there for you, but you need to then dynamically map some fields in this body. So this is exactly you'll just have this exactly like this. And then these three green fields here are going to be dynamically mapped from information we pulled from Airtable. So over on the left-hand side, you'll notice all of that Airtable row, all these fields are here. So the oldest post date, remember we set that up. I can drag that in there and have the oldest post date and just drop and drag it in there like that, and it will map for me. In the profile, I'm going to grab the TikTok user profile. I'm going to drop that in there. And in the results per page, I'm going to grab that one and drop that in there. Now we're dynamically setting that up, so we can change it at Airtable at any time we like. Once you've got that set up, you're good to go. So now when you do a test step, now you're going to run it. It's going to send a request to Appify. Appify is going to take a little bit of time to run through depending on how many you asked for it to scrape. And then all this data is going to come back here. And this is really valuable information. When you start getting into automations, you kind of get excited when you see a big pile of data like this because you'll realize there's how much you can do with it. Right now, it might look intimidating if you haven't done this before, but once you get into this stuff, you'll realize this is incredible information that we can do stuff with automation. So let's have a look now at the next step. We've pulled this information through. So what I've done here is I've just split off into two branches. And the reason I've done that is, first of all, I want to store this scraped data back at Airtable for this profile. So let's just do this step first because it's really quick and easy. I'm going to choose another module on the right called Airtable, and I'm going to choose this time, it's an update, a create or update. Make sure you choose the right one there. Sorry, I got an itchy nose. So create or update. Once you've got that open like this, you make sure you've got it all connected like we did before. You want to choose the table TikTok Spy, the base rather, and the table is the videos table. Okay, this is what we're updating. It's not the first table where we got the information from, it's the second table. So if we just quickly look back, it's not the competitor table, it's this table that we're updating. So you choose this table this time, okay? So here we're going to choose videos, and then we're going to go mapping columns mode, just leave that as it is. But this is really important. Columns to match ID on, you want to choose which column you want to match on. And from the drop down, choose video ID, just like that, okay? And then down below here, you want to start mapping all these fields in. So on the left-hand side, you can see all the data that we got back from Data for SEO. So if I move this out of the side here, if I set this to schema, you can see here, if I close it up like this, you can see all the information here that I got from that scrape. Okay, so if I open it up and expand it, there's some really great stuff that we can start pulling in. The first thing I want to pull in here is a video ID. So I grab this field and I drop it in there like that. The next field I'm going to pull is the competitor here, which is the profile. So that's coming from the TikTok profile scraper. Yeah, it's coming from here. Sorry, and you just grab the name of the profile. Sorry, I just had to pause the video. I had a total mind blank. I was looking at it going, I can't remember what I actually did. And then it came to me. So apologies for that. But in the competitive field here, what we do is we grab this profile URL. All we really want is just the end part where it's got the @ symbol. Okay, that's all we're really chasing is that one there. So I just drag that in there. But if I just drag it as it is, it's going to give me all of this. I don't want the whole thing. I just want it to come out if I open it just like that. So in order to do that, I just add a little bit of code on the end, which is just going to adjust it for me. That's all you need to really know. It's just going to take off that front part for me and truncate it. So that'll be done for you. You can just copy it from the automation that I give you, but that's all I'm doing in that step. The next one is just a video URL. So a lot of these are really straightforward to map. So you just go through and look for all the fields that you want to map, and then one by one, you just grab and map them over. So if you find the video URL link, that might be down in the meta fields down below. So if I go down here and close up some, there's video URL there. So you can drag that in like that. Sometimes you got to dig through the data to find stuff. So if we go down to the video meta down here, you can see if we scroll further down, this is where we can start to find some of the information that's really useful. So the dig count, so we can grab that, pull that across. The shares, we can grab the share count, drop that into there. The plays count, we can drag that into there like that. Comments is there, we can drag that into there like that. And then the creation date, I believe the creation date's probably right at the top somewhere up there. Creation time ISO like that. We can just drop that one in there like that. So then we can map all of these fields in here. And then once we've done that, all of that information for each of the videos for this particular competitor is going to automatically be added to Airtable. So if I test step, I won't do it now because I've done it. That is going to store all of the video data. So if we head back to our table, that's just updating all of this section here for us automatically. So we scraped all these videos. We got the ID, the URL, and all that data that you just saw me mapping. That's all pulling into here and storing it in Airtable for us. So this whole part is done. This part over here is from the second part of the automation, which updates it. We'll get to that, but we're not quite there yet. So let's just have a look at what we're going to do next. Here, I'm going to add a code node. I'm just going to move some of this over because I seem to be elongating things here a little bit just to bring it back into the screen so we don't doesn't get too messy for us. So let me just move that back. Okay, so the next one is, what I'm going to do in the next field here is a code node. So in order to add a code node, just click plus and at the top go code like that. And then I'm going to give you this in the automation anyway, so you don't have to worry about it, but I'll just explain what's happening for those of you that might want to understand what's going on in this code here. What I wanted to do is inside that big giant feed that we got back, deep buried inside that, there was the transcript URL. The transcript URL is really important. Now, the way that the feed comes back in, if we look into this data down here, we can see that deep within this, here in the subtitle links right down here, this is where the scraper finds all of this all the transcripts. It's in the subtitle links like that. It can read them. There's different ways to get transcripts, but this way seems to work when they do have the subtitles on there. But you can see how many there are. There's so many. There's 21, 22. These are all different languages. So if you wanted to find answers in different languages, you can go down and down and down. It's still going. I don't know how many languages it's actually got, but I only want English. So this is where I ran into a little bit of difficulty. I was going through this going, there's so many. I just want the English one. I don't want 31 other languages like this, right? So I was finding it difficult to find the English one because every time the scrape came through, it wasn't in the same order. Sometimes the English one would be third, sometimes it would be the fourth one. And this just wasn't working for me. I'm like, how am I going to get the English transcript every time consistently in an automation without it driving me nuts? So you can see I'm looking through for the English one and I can't even find it. So then what I did was just create this little script here in this code node that it went in there and found the English one and grabbed it for me. And it works perfectly like this. So it looks through all of that list, looks for the English version, grabs the URL and spits it out on the other side. So it makes it a lot easier. So that's all I'm doing in this step. You can see the result here is that for each of the videos, it gave me the video ID, and then it gave me the English transcript URL. So this is the URL that I was chasing. If I grab that URL, I can just open it up there and have a look at it and paste it like this. You can see here, this is the transcript of that video. It's not in a usable form, but we'll fix that up later. So this is what I was wanting because I can get the AI to read that and tell me what the video was about. So if we hop back here, the other really important step is in this code here that I wrote here, we actually had to tell it, grab the video ID with it and pull that across and match that up so that I'm tracking it because I don't want to lose track of which transcript the video this related to. I need to know which video this transcript came from. So I just stitched them together like this on this output. By doing that, I can keep everything together and then we can join them back together later on in the automation. That's a really important point in automations. If you want to keep things joined together so you don't lose control, you need to tag stuff. Okay, so now I've got the URLs of all of these videos that we scraped, the transcript URLs. Now, if any particular video didn't have a transcript or didn't have an English version, I don't want to pass it on into here because it might break the automation. So I'm going to put a filter step in here. So to add a filter, all I got to do is go to the top right and go filter like this. In this filter module, all I'm doing, it's pretty straightforward. All I do is I'll just open this up for you. I just grab this entry here, which is JSON.English transcript, which is this, right, that I got, the thing that was spat out from the code node. I just drag it in there like that. And I just say, if that is not empty, then pass it through. In this case, they were all filled. There wasn't any that were empty. But if there was, it would have just been filtered out here and it wouldn't have passed through because I don't want anything to continue if it doesn't have a transcript because it's pointless. I just want the transcripts to follow through like this. So hopefully you're following me so far. That's just a simple filter step. Now, the next thing we do is just add a really basic HTTP request. And this one only takes a few seconds to set up. So just get another HTTP. All we're doing here is it's a get module, get request. In the URL field, we just map that URL from the previous filter step, just like that. Just map it in like that. And that's all you actually need to do in here. And then you click test step and it's just going to pull the actual video URLs that I just showed you before. So it's like me manually, like I showed you, loading it in a browser. It's just doing the same thing. It's just loading it in here, but it pulls it into an automation that I can pass downstream now. So that's exactly all that's doing. So now I'm going to add another code node to tidy some of this up so that I can feed it into the AI. So in this code node here, I'll open it up. I'll give you this so you can just copy it so you don't have to worry about trying to figure out how to do this. It's just tidying it up. So instead of having all these extra characters that I don't want that are quite difficult to read, like timestamps and markdown characters and stuff like that, that's not good to feed that into an AI. It's just confusing the AI and makes it work harder to figure out what it's actually reading. We don't want to do that. So I want a clean result. So this is all I did. It was just a cleanup node. Now you can see here the transcript's actually really easy to read for even humans. So it makes it great to feed this sort of stuff into an AI. So it's got a clean transcripts now. Now all these video transcripts are clean as a whistle. And I know the video URL that they came from. So that's great because I can map it back to Airtable. Because you remember earlier in the step here, we mapped everything back to Airtable. So I want to be able to map this clean transcript back as well when I'm done. And in order to do that, I need to know what video URL, video ID to map it back to. So now that I've got a clean output here, like this. What I want to do now is feed all this into an AI module and get the AI to start reading this stuff for me and making decisions and feeding that back into Airtable. Okay, so what we're going to do is add here a basic LLM chain, which is just an AI module. So the way you do that is go up here and type in basic like that, basic LLM chain. Now, in order for an LLM chain to work, you need to attach a brain to it, which is a model. So in order to have a model, I'm using OpenAI. You need an account at OpenAI. So go to OpenAI, which is the company that owns ChatGPT, and set up an account with them. And then you go into your account where it's got the API section and get your API credentials. And you need to put a couple of dollars on your account in order to use their API. So once you've done that, if I open this up here, once you've done it, it's exactly like we did before with the pencil icon. You get your API credentials, plug it in here and connect it, and then you choose a model that you want to run. I'm using GPT 4.0. Okay, so I'm not going to walk through how to do that because it's reasonably straightforward. And when you're doing automations, you just have to get used to connecting things with API credentials because you do it a lot. So once you've got that connected and you added a brain onto that step, I'm going to show you about the structured output in a second. So just ignore that for now. Let's pop this open and see what's going on in here. What we're going to do in here is going to give it a couple of prompts, a system prompt and a user prompt. So we've got two fields. The first field is in here, and again, you're going to have this so you can read it. But we're just telling it what we want it to do. We're saying you're a competitive intelligence analyst, and your task is to analyze the transcripts of videos of competitors. You can read that and pause the video and read what I've put there. And then I'm going to slide require specific output format to yes or green. And then I'm going to add another prompt down here, which is a user prompt. Okay, so I'm going to select that to user prompt and message text like that. And here I'm going to give it a user prompt. Again, you can just copy what I've got here, but essentially all I'm doing is saying, I want you to analyze these transcripts. Okay, and here's the video ID that the transcript comes from. So all I'm simply doing here is mapping from this previous code node. So map the ID, map the clean transcript, because you remember we cleaned it up. So that's what we want to map in here. And over on the right-hand side, you can see what the AI can see, a nice clean transcript. So we've also given it a definition of what we want it to critique. We're telling it we want you to look for tools that were mentioned, any software tools, any tactics. This is where you can define what you want to find from a video, okay? This is where you can fine-tune it to your own needs. So tell the AI what you want it to look for in the video transcript, and then it will work through that, and it will tailor the report that it sends you to what you're looking for. Okay, you might want to tailor it to say, all I want to know about is how they did their opening hooks in the first 10 seconds of the video. Tell me how they did it, and then send me an email or a report breaking down how they did their hooks. That would be a great automation, and it's probably something I'm actually going to do to understand how people are doing their short form opening hooks. So there's so many different things you can do once you have this information. So the other important thing to understand when you're building automations like this is we're actually iterating through this. So we're not doing a bulk add in one. If you notice, if I pop out of here and I zoom in, you'll notice that going into this LLM chain, you'll see it says 10 items are going in. So coming out of here, there's 10 items because everything had 10 because we got 10 videos that we scraped. So it's got 10, 10, 10. Then coming out the other side is 10. So we're actually doing an iteration, and we're iterating one by one by one all the way through until all 10 are finished. You'll notice here, the chat model did it 10 times. Everything's done 10 times because we're iterating. It's really important to understand how to iterate when you do automations. So I'll teach more about that in future videos if that's something that you guys want to know about. But one thing I see people get caught out on when they're doing automations is they don't realize they do stuff that shuts down the iteration. They close it down by accident by doing things in different modules like the code node. For example, in here in this code node, you want to set it run once for all items. Sometimes people don't realize that, and they have it run once for each item, and then it can shut down the iteration. So what we're doing here is iterating through, and we're feeding it one by one each transcript like this. Okay, so by doing that, we then pop out of here and we give it a structured output example. So the way you do this is when you slid this over to on here on green, then you need to add this. And the way you add a structured output example is you go to the right and you just go structured output example like this, output parser rather, click it. all we're doing here is forcing it to output in a certain way so it doesn't just come up with some random output, with all these characters that we don't want and stuff that's just annoying. So by forcing an output, we're saying, this is your structure, output it like this, and it will do it. So I just give it the structure that I want to output it, and then it will follow it. That's a really important point when you're doing this with N8N. So once we've done that, if we look at the output that we get on the other side, I'm going to swap that to schema so it's easy to see. You can see that the AI has read each video, and this is what it says. It looks at the tactics, and it's read everything and given me a report for this particular video. So it's done that for all the videos. So if I set that to JSON, you can see as I go through, all the videos have had that done to them because it's iterated through each one. So now that we've done that, I can now add that back to Airtable one by one again and just update Airtable row. So what I want to be doing here is back at Airtable, I need to map in the correct row that it came from. That's why this video ID is so important to tag along the entire time. Because when I know that video ID is what I'm wanting to update, then I can map back to that. And then over here, I can map all these fields here that just came out of that LLM chain into the right row. Otherwise, I don't know where to put it. And it's a useless automation. So the way that we do this is we get an Airtable module, and it's an upsert module. So if we click over here and go Airtable like this, click on that. This is a create or update module. Okay, so click it open. Keep everything just the default as you find it. Make sure you've got the right table and base set up there. But the columns to match on, again, is your video ID. You need to select video ID or it won't work. So make sure you do that. And then the value here for the video ID that you're actually matching is the video ID that just came out of the LLM chain, just like that. Because you remember, we fed that video ID all the way along the chain. We kept passing it along all the way to the end. It's like a baton and the athletics where they pass the baton when you do that running event. It's the same sort of thing. You're just passing an ID all the way along the chain, so then when we're done, we can map back to it. So I map my ID in there, and then simply all I'm doing is just mapping all these fields back into Airtable. It's really quite straightforward from this point on. So I just get the video transcript, and you can just look through here and map all these fields. So you've got topic summary, audience, problem solved, solutions. So it's simply just map all of those in. And then over on the right-hand side, you can see they'll map in like this. So that's all you got to do. So once you've done that step, you can test it, and then it's going to update everything back to your Airtable. And now you're going to have a full Airtable like this with all this information. So now that we're at this stage, we want to start doing the second part of this automation, which is really quite quick and easy to set up. So don't be worried if you're thinking this is getting a bit long, because we're almost done with this. So now we need to set up a second automation here. So we're going to set up a webhook the same way we did the first one. And once you set the webhook up, make sure you grab the URL of the webhook, okay? And here we're going to get an Airtable module, and it's going to be a search record, okay? So we're going to go to the right. I know I'm going quite quick, but just pause the video if you think I'm going too fast, and then you can just go at your own pace. Here, it's really important that you choose search record. So do search a record. And then in here, you want to do the same thing. Everything's the same. But one important thing that you're doing in here is it's a filter by formula in here, okay? I'm using a formula in here. And again, you can just copy this and you can play around with this, but all this is doing is it's filtering the Airtable record. So let me show you, and it'll make complete sense when I do a test here. Before we do that, I need to set up the automation back at N8N in order to fire this webhook. So copy your webhook. We're going to go back to our Airtable. And we're going to set up the second automation here. You notice in the beginning of this video, we had two, an AI analysis and a scrape TikTok, okay? So here, I'm going to select a trigger event for my second one, and it's going to be the videos table this time as the configuration. And then in the status field here, I'm going to put bulk review, when status is bulk review, okay? So if you look at the table, on the right-hand side, we set that up at the beginning. There was a status called bulk review. Now, I can just set one of them to bulk review, and it's going to grab all of these here, okay? I don't actually have to set all of them like that. I'll show you why in a second. It will make complete sense. So let's just say I got that set up. I got bulk review. I'm going to add a script. This is exactly like what we did before. So you're just going to go edit in here and put the script, same script, just paste the new webhook in here. Everything else is going to remain the same. Then over on the right-hand side here, you're going to have to put in your configuration, which it looks like I accidentally must have deleted. So I'll just do it now, record ID like that. and then in here, you're going to click record ID. Okay, so actually in hindsight, I don't think we needed the full record ID, but I put it in anyway. I'll show you why. But now that you got that set up, the automation, make sure you got it turned on. Don't forget to turn it on. Once it's turned on, let's head back over to here. And we got these two modules. We're going to come back and move through the rest of this in a second. So in here, what's happening now is when that webhook fires by changing that status to bulk, and it doesn't matter which row you actually triggered, you can actually just pick one and it will be fine. Because what it's doing is just one of them fires, the webhook triggers, this Airtable module is also triggered, but it's filter. It's got this rule to filter. So it's saying in here, it's filtering for anything in the date added column here is after. So if we look back at Airtable and we look at the table and we go date added, that's the column that formula is filtering. It's looking in the date added column. So let's head back here. Sorry, I'm jumping around. If you look here, it's looking in that column. That's all this little bit of code saying. It's saying in that column, I want you to filter for anything that's within the last 7 days. Okay, that's all it's doing. And then it's going to filter, and you'll notice in here, I'll just put it to schema, it's grabbed 10 items, okay? The reason it's grabbed 10 items is because all of those items are within the last 7 days. Okay, so I didn't actually have to go through here and do this, bulk review one by one. There's no need to do it because I can just trigger one of them and then do a filter step like I just did and just say, grab all of them in one bulk hit that have a date range within the last week. And then it will just grab all of them. So that's why it's so much easier than having to do one by one when I want to do a bulk processing step. So let's head back here. That's all I'm doing in here. And then I'm pulling all 10 rows at a time. Well, it depends how many that you've got in there that meet that parameter of those dates. But that's what's happening here. Now you'll notice there's 10 items, not just one that's been pulled through. I'm going to add another code node in here, okay? So the code node here, again, you can just keep this exactly as you find it. And what's happening in here is it's actually stitching these together into a big feed that I can put into the LLM, one big feed. So if I change it to the JSON view, you can see I'm feeding everything in a one bulk hit here to train so the AI can read what happened for the week on all the videos of my competitors like that. So in this scenario, I'm not actually iterating. I'm not going one by one by one by one. And the reason I'm not doing that is I want the AI to just have a bulk scan across all the transcripts of the videos in the last week, which there might be like 10 or 20 of them, and then just read them all in one hit and tell me a summary of all of the content together and tell me, what are the trends that are going on and a bulk hit. Now, I didn't have to do that step. If you want to feed it one by one, you could have, but I find this is a better step to do here. Then I'm just doing another LLM chain. Everything's identical to what we did on this one here, okay? So it's exactly the same setup. And in this one, I'm just doing a simple prompt here, which is in the system prompt here. And I'm just telling it what it is. I just define what you are. You're a competitive intelligent analyst. You can read what I've put there to tell it to define its role. And then down below, I do a user prompt like this. And in here, I give it this, I give it the information that was pulled from this step here of the recent videos. Okay, so it's taking all of that information that was bundled together in that code node, and I'm just flattening it out into a string. This is all I'm doing in this module here. You can see the code there. I've just stringified that JSON. It's basically just turning it into a string. If I do that, over here I'm saying, here is a list of all the competitive videos and all their metadata information. And I'm saying, this is like the sort of stuff that I want it to process and produce for me. So it feeds all of this information in a bulk hit into the AI like that, okay? And I tell it that I want a weekly report created, and this is how I prompt it. And again, you can tweak it to whatever you want, but this was just how I did the first draft. I'll probably change this once I play around with it some more. But I'm telling the AI, read through this and send me a report, and then it will do that. So what comes out the other end here is, I'll just show you it on a schema view. It's got it like, I'll show it on a JSON view. It's got it like this, right? But it's still a little bit unusable because all these markdown characters that I can't seem to get the AI to stop doing, which drives me crazy. So in order to just tidy that up before I email it to myself, I just add another code node in here. I know there's a lot of code nodes in this, but you can just really just copy them. You don't have to do any changing. There's a code note here. It's just, again, tidying up and removing some of these markdown characters here that just annoy me. So by adding that in there, and then I output it in a cleaned HTML format like this. Now it's nice and clean and organized. So then I can just output this code node, and then I'm just going to add a Gmail module to email me the result. So in order to add a Gmail module, you just have to go through, add your credentials here. Again, it's the whole API thing. Then you just click send, put your email in, and then all you're doing is dragging this clean into the message field here. Just drag the cleaned HTML straight into the message, and it will email you that report. And that is all you have to do. Then the whole automation is complete. So if we head back over to our email, this is the report, and it's nice and tidy in this clean HTML format that makes it really easy for me to read. So I can get this emailed to me once a week and see whatever I want to see. And you can tailor this report to whatever you want. It totally depends on how you prompted the AI. I could do all sorts of different things, but it's really, at a quick go of doing this, it's given me some trend topics that are going on. It's given me high viral videos that went well for a competitor. That's something I probably want to look at. I can just click straight from the email and see what's going on. Any other strategies, and it completely depends on how you prompt it. So if we go back and finish off here, just to go and summarize what we achieved in this automation, is we start off by getting a competitor's handle from TikTok. And then we start populating these handles in a rows in Airtable like this. Then we do the first pass over at Appify, and it scrapes all of their videos, and it gets all the data for it on a first pass, and then adds it here. It starts adding all of the information here for us, right? And populating that. Then the second pass that we do on the second automation is it grabs all of these in bulk, passes it through to the AI, and it reads all of this information. So we go through the first step here, read the transcript, populate everything back to Airtable, and then the second automation, we feed it all into a bulk hit and just say, give me a summary report. So that's how you can build an AI automation team that can just keep an eye on everything in your niche. Now, you could adapt this for YouTube videos and all sorts. So if you found this video useful, please do me a huge favor, comment below, let me know what you think, and also let me know what sort of other videos you want me to create for future YouTube videos, and I'll put that on the list to create. Also, hit subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, and hit me the like button. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.